Okay, you send us this news report, and wow, diving into it, it's a really complex story, lots of twists.
It really is.
Our deep dive today, then, focuses on Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's a Salvadoran immigrant, and his story involves, well, a deportation the government itself called an error,
Mm,
a huge legal battle to get him back, and now he is back, but he's facing some very serious federal charges.
that sums it up well. This report, it lays out all these different layers. You've got conflicting claims, different viewpoints. It's a lot.
So what's our goal here?
Our mission, really, is to walk you through the key events laid out in this report. Look at the deportation, the legal fight, the charges he's facing now, and, the big legal questions it all raises.
Basically help you understand what the report says happened and why it's, well, why it matters.
Exactly.
Okay, let's start at the beginning, which the report frames as pretty unexpected. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, living in Maryland since 2011.
Right.
He gets deported in March 2025.
But here's the crucial part, according to the source. The Trump administration later said, oops, administrative error.
An error. Why?
Because, and this is key, back in 2019, Abrego Garcia had actually been granted a legal status. It's called withholding of removal.
Right, withholding of removal. Just so you know, that's not quite asylum, but it's a protection. It means sending him back to El Salvador was deemed too dangerous.
Likely persecution, the report mentions, specifically from local gangs there.
So he had this protection.
He did. But despite that, he was put on a plane, sent to El Salvador. And the report says he was initially locked up in that notorious Supermax prison, CE Cot.
Wow, the terrorism confinement center.
Yeah. And the source notes this happened during those broader Trump administration efforts, the crackdown on illegal immigration.
Okay, so that deportation, as the report details, wasn't the end. It actually kicked off a major legal fight back here.
Oh, definitely. It got nationwide attention, even backlash, according to the report.
And this legal battle went pretty high up.
It did, all the way through the court system. You had a district court judge, Paula Sheenis, repeatedly telling the government, you need to take steps to bring him back.
And her orders were upheld?
Yes, the report states clearly. A federal appeals court agreed, and then the Supreme Court agreed too.
So 3 levels of court saying the same thing.
Pretty much. That the government had a duty to help get him out of that prison in El Salvador and treat his case like the deportation never happened.
But the source suggests the government wasn't exactly rushing to follow those orders.
That's a really important point in the report. Abrego Garcia's lawyers argued the administration was essentially defying the courts.
How so?
Refusing to act, or refusing to even say what they were doing. Judge Sheenis herself, the report says, accused the administration of twisting the Supreme Court's ruling and called their lack of cooperation a willful and bad faith refusal to comply.
Strong language from a federal judge.
Very strong. And you also had Senator Chris Van Hollen, quoted in the report, saying the administration was flouting the Supreme Court and the Constitution.
Though he apparently added they seem to have finally relented later on.
Right, which kind of brings us up to the present, or at least very recently, this past Friday, June 6th.
He's back! Kilmar Abrego Garcia returned to the U.S.?
He did.
But, and this is the big twist the report highlights, he wasn't just brought back to, fix the deportation error, as his lawyer put it.
No, he was brought back to face criminal charges, federal ones.
Okay, tell us about those. What does the report say?
Well, there's a federal indictment.
Yeah.
That means a grand jury reviewed evidence and decided there was enough to formally charge him. It was issued May 21st, but only unsealed Friday when he returned.
And the charges are?
2 counts: conspiracy to transport aliens and unlawful transportation of undocumented aliens.
Attorney General Pam Bondi held a press conference, right?
Yes, she did. And the report covers her remarks. She said El Salvador agreed to return him once they got the U.S. arrest warrant.
What else did she say?
She's quoted, Abrego Garcia has landed in the United States to face justice. This is what American justice looks like. She also said the grand jury found he played a significant role in smuggling, including children and women, and called him a danger to our community.
But the report adds a very important clarification about her comments.
It does, yeah. It explicitly points out that some of what Attorney General Bondi said went beyond what's actually in the indictment.
Like what?
She mentioned him playing a role in a murder and soliciting pictures from a minor. The report stresses neither of those things are in the actual charging documents.
Okay, so that's crucial for you listening stick to what the indictment actually alleges, according to this source. So what is in there?
The indictment alleges this conspiracy ran from 2016 up to this year, 2025.
Okay.
The accusation is that Abrego Garcia and others worked together to bring migrants from Latin America, through Mexico, across the border, into Texas.
And then move them inside the U.S.
That's the allegation, yes.
Yeah.
That he and a co-conspirator picked people up in Houston, moved them elsewhere. The indictment even claims they made up cover stories.
To first story.
Yeah, like pretending they were transporting construction workers just in case they got stopped by police.
And the report connects this to a real incident.
It does. It mentions a traffic stop back in November 2022 in Tennessee.
Okay.
Abrego Garcia was pulled over for speeding, had at least 8 other people in the car. He apparently told the trooper they'd been doing construction work in St. Louis.
And anything come of that at the time?
Well, the report notes that later, an April DHS report suspected human trafficking in that incident, but he wasn't arrested or charged then.
Interesting. What else does the indictment allege?
It claims he and 6 co-conspirators used phones, social media, to coordinate moving migrants. And there's another serious allegation that he worked with 2 others to transport illegal firearms.
Firearms?
Yeah, bought in Texas, allegedly, for distribution and resale up in Maryland, where he lived.
And was money changing hands?
Oh, yes. The indictment alleges they took payments from migrants for moving them and shuffled money between themselves to try and hide where it came from.
And there's a scale mentioned.
The indictment claims they knowingly and unlawfully transported thousands of undocumented migrants. And significantly, it alleges many of those people were members or associates of the MS-13 gang.
Okay, that's a lot from the prosecution side based on the indictment and the report. But the report also includes the defense's view, right? His attorney, Simon Sandoval-Moschenberg.
Absolutely. And it's a very different perspective. Essentially, hear it.
What's his main argument, according to the source?
He calls this whole thing the wrongful deportation, then bringing him back just to prosecute him and abuse of power, not justice.
Strong words again?
Yeah. He argues due process means you get to defend yourself before you're punished, not after you've been, quote, disappeared to a foreign prison in violation of a court order.
Does he address the specific charges, the smuggling and MS-13 connection allegations?
He does. The report quotes him saying he's confident Abrego Garcia won't be convicted.
Why not?
He basically says there's no way a jury is going to see the evidence and agree that this sheet metal worker is the leader of an international MS-13 smuggling conspiracy. That's his quote, essentially questioning the plausibility of the government's narrative.
And the report reminds us the government has previously claimed he's an MS-13 member. Based on what?
Reportedly, a confidential informant and his clothing. But crucially, the report adds his lawyers deny any gang ties and state he has 0 criminal record in either the U.S. or El Salvador.
So again, you have these starkly contrasting pictures being painted.
Exactly. Competing narratives.
Okay, so he's back, he's charged. What happened when he first appeared in court? The report covers that too.
It does. His initial appearance was in Nashville, Friday, June 6th.
And what was the atmosphere like, based on the description?
The report paints a picture of him looking confused, tired, mostly kept his head down, appeared pretty stoic before the magistrate judge, Barbara Holmes. He was escorted by Homeland Security investigations agents. He's currently in U.S. Marshal's custody.
And there were some immediate issues raised.
Yes, practical ones. His public defender apparently had very little time to actually talk with him before the hearing.
That seems tough.
Yeah, and she'd only gotten the indictment in English, hadn't even finished reading him the Spanish translation yet.
So what happened regarding custody? Did his lawyer argue for release?
She did. Argued the government hadn't shown he was a flight risk or a danger, the standard for keeping someone locked up before trial.
And the judge's decision?
Judge Holmes decided he stays in custody, for now. There's another hearing scheduled for June 13th.
And what's that hearing for?
It's kind of a two-parter, as the report explains it. First, to see if prosecutors even have grounds to ask for detention. If they do, then that same hearing will be the detention hearing where both sides argue about keeping him jailed, and it will also be his arraignment.
Arraignment being where he formally pleads guilty or not guilty.
Exactly. And one other point the report mentions. His lawyer expressed interest in finding out how he was treated in that Salvadoran prison, CE Cup.
Especially before people back here started paying attention.
Precisely. Before the Salvadoran authorities knew, his case was getting traction in the U.S. courts.
Okay. So we followed this thread from the report. The initial deportation called an error, The big court fight, the Supreme Court weighing in, his return, and now these immediate serious charges. And the defense saying this whole process is unjust.
Right. And when you take a step back, this deep dive into the report, what does it show you? It really touches on some fundamental things about our legal system, doesn't it?
Like what?
Well, the limits of executive power, what the government can and can't do, the role of the courts in checking that power, that whole tension between enforcing immigration laws and protecting individual rights, like due process.
Yeah, and how different parts of the government can sometimes seem to be working against each other.
Exactly. The courts ordering one thing, the administration allegedly resisting.
It also really highlights for you, trying to follow this, how tough it can be to sort out the truth when you have claims of government mistakes mixed with serious criminal accusations against the same person.
Very challenging. You've got the enforcement side, the right side, and they seem to be clashing directly in this case based on the report.
We've seen the court orders, the indictment-specific claims, the AG's statements, and then that really sharp criticism from the defense about how this all went down.
A lot of moving parts and serious questions raised.
So, thinking about everything we've pulled from this report, here's something maybe to chew on. When the government itself calls its initial action the deportation an administrative error, but then brings that same person back specifically to face brand new, serious criminal charges, what does that mean for the idea of justice?
It's a tough question. How does the system ensure fairness? How do you hold someone accountable if they committed crimes, but also uphold their right to due process, especially after such an unusual sequence of events like the one detailed in this report?
Yeah, balancing accountability and fundamental rights when the path there has been so contested and complicated. Definitely something to think about.